How's it going? Happy Friday. Hudson and Scotty B need a therapist. I'm Hudson Hot. Scotty Blaisdell, my partner. Alan Wagner, our therapist. Man, did you see the news today about Starbucks?
I saw this yesterday as I was getting ready to go to bed, and my son works for Starbucks,
Yeah.
Brandon, and he's doing that because Starbucks, among the other benefits, actually pays for college, and that's how he's going to college right now. And so I was obviously very concerned about that, and he says he's okay, but there are a lot of locations getting dumped, which is weird because they're usually growing in stores, not, shrinking.
I know, over 900 non-retail locations. And I guess they're going to target the locations that can't hit those performance thresholds, which I feel like a lot of companies are doing, and it's not just Starbucks. And I know that, we've done a podcast in the past about AI and how AI is taking over, and this sort of fits into that category.
Well, it's not because of AI. It's a financial decision they're
Right.
making because as and we were talking a little bit before we went on here, as Alan said, he hasn't said anything yet on the podcast, but he said previously,
He
I'll
did.
speak for him, so he doesn't even have to talk. That there's stores across from stores across from stores. It's like a joke. There's always a Starbucks everywhere, and there had to be a point where you see that one of them can't survive and really pay the bills, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you
And
think about
so,
this, Alan?
Look, I,
You're
I
just
think
trying to include him in the podcast.
I was picking my son up from school yesterday and we stopped at Circle K and he came in and he was so excited about the AI and how convenient it was. And he was saying how as a consumer, it's actually really good and it's very efficient, whether it's, at a drive-through or whatever. And honestly, as a business, it's much more efficient because you're not paying employees anymore and it's accurate. I think back to like people who were high school or 20s, the kind of jobs they could get is like working at a Circle K or at a fast food restaurant or a grocery store. And because of those jobs being replaced, and not to mention going back to the Starbucks thing I was thinking about, have you guys noticed at the grocery all the Starbucks products?
Oh
They
yeah.
sell now, like for whether it's like cold brew or all of the bottled products or all of the different things you can buy on beans, you can just make your own Starbucks. And I started to see that with a lot of other brick and mortar restaurants that were closing. You go to the freezer section of a grocery store or Walmart, and they're still selling their fries and they're still selling, other aspects of that restaurant. But Marie Callender's as a restaurant doesn't exist anymore. It's just a frozen dinner now. And so you wonder sometimes, is this the end of brick and mortar as cost goes up? I don't know.
When you talk about, going to the grocery store and seeing that one person, I don't like that, even though it may be convenient to quickly go through. When it comes to produce and things like that,
I
I
can't do
don't,
it.
it stresses me that I have to figure it out. And I just want to go in and get my stuff. And I just feel like it slows me down.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I know what you guys are talking about. I used to work at grocery stores, and I remember back in the day before the scanners, and I'd have to do all the math in my head and the change as I'm typing it all up and correct change and all of that stuff and weighing out the different produce, like you're saying. And I see now the skill level of somebody who just hits a button at a restaurant or at a grocery store. It's like beep. Oh, this meal, number two, beep. And you really don't need to even have a high school education to do that. And so I think we're seeing that the automation that's going on here, even before AI, was making it so that you didn't really have to have much skill to work in these stores. All you had to do was have your hand swiping across a barcode. And now we're in a place where we can see that it's so much easier. And Daniel was saying, like my son was saying, how convenient it was, not knowing that he's shooting himself in the foot because this would have been his step ladder towards building work experience on a resume so he could get the jobs in the future because we all need work experience. And how do you get it? Like you were saying about your son doing Starbucks for college, and I've heard great things. You're not the first person to tell me that they pay for school. And what's going to happen to all of those jobs? Because either we'll buy them at the store or there'll just be some automated system where a machine spews it out and we swipe our credit card or tap it and we're out.
Let me just go through some of the jobs that they had posted today that are m most at risk. These are considered high risk, either because they can either be automated or AI is already performing like essential tasks right now and just getting better and better. Data entry, clerical, typists. I haven't heard of anyone doing data entry in ages, but there are people that are still doing it, and that job is not going to be around much longer, you think?
Have you guys seen that new device where you wear it as like a necklace and you can just go to meetings and not take notes? And it will
Yeah.
actually spew out the meeting that you went to with highlighting with bullet points all of the key points of the meeting, the actionable items. everything that you need to do so that you could basically just zone out and doodle for the entire meeting and walk out of there with an action plan.
I just talked to a parent of a college student, and the college student wanted a certain app that basically does the same thing. And the parent said, it makes me think that they're not learning like we did, because writing down the notes, even if it's just a speaker speaking, you're having to write things out. But
Right.
if you just sit there and it writes it out for you, you're not getting that step of learning.
No, you're zoning out. Chances are you're going to zone out. You're not paying attention. You're worried about that text message that's coming in because you know that you've got that device on, and I could go back and listen to it later.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Retail cashiers. That was my first job. I think that was one of my first jobs. I worked at a place called Merry Go Round. Like what you were saying, Alan, is that where are our kids going to get their first job now? What are they going to do? Because as I'm going down this list, these were basic jobs.
Well, here's something that I thought as well, because you think about who is excellent with technology, and usually it's the younger set.
Right.
So, is there going to be an entry level position where they can use that skill immediately? I know that my son, one of his first jobs, he went to work for a lumber yard.
Mhm.
And they had no technological setup. It was all just people coming in, they're writing everything down. And he says, why don't we have this on a computer? And he kind of created a system for them. And they then wanted him, oh, you're going to be our guy for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI can give us sometimes the structures, but human beings still have to implement it. And I think, whether or not we choose to follow, we can ask ChatGPT for a lot of questions, but whether we choose to do it or not to actually enact the outcomes that we're trying to achieve, that's on us. But I agree with what you're saying as far as the younger generation. They do have that ability to work with this technology, but the question is, are they using it the right way? And like you said, are they really learning, or are they just sort of spouting out and then regurgitating without actually learning? But I like that young people get that taste of responsibility of having a boss, having responsibility, having humility, cleaning bathrooms, vacuuming, or unboxing things. They make us humble, and they make us respect work, and they make us respect people. And if they don't exist, then it's like magic. Everything just happens. And I think in those
Well,
situations, yeah, it's not
well,
good.
somebody still has to clean the bathroom, though.
For now.
I don't know how many kids want to go to that job.
They do have Roombas that mop your floors now, not just Roombas that pick up dog hair and pick up dust and dirt. They have mopping Roombas. That's the latest and greatest.
But we're very close to the humanoid robots. And I think that's what's going to be very interesting, because these will be able to handle the jobs of assembly, because they'll have fingers to assemble burgers or to assemble products in a way that manufacturing jobs, can all be replaced now too. So it's not just like the AI working in certain ways. It's actually going to be doing the hands-on stuff. And we're only about 2 or 3 years away from Tesla robots being in a McDonald's or being in a Target, actually loading up the product and the inventory, unloading the trucks, all of those things, just worker robots. So, I mean, cleaning bathrooms, like we said earlier. So it is an interesting time, because I was saying to my son, I was like, well, what are people going to do for work? And he didn't really have an answer for that.
Bookkeeping, accounting clerks, paralegals, and legal research roles, which used to be a great job for someone who wanted to get into paralegal work. No
Mhm.
more. Translators and interpreters. That was another very well paying job many years ago. And now there's an app for that.
I have a friend in Los Angeles who was a therapist, and she's bilingual because I believe she was from Peru. And as a result, she opened up a translation business and in Los Angeles. And she was making so much more money as a translator than she was as a therapist, and being that sort of intertwining, because there's so many non-English speakers. And now I saw that the new AirPods have instant translation. So now we can almost, like in a movie of like when you see them talking to aliens and they put the little pod in and they're speaking to each other. We're like that now. We can go to Europe, Asia, South America, and we can actually just talk to people with little earbuds in.
I imagine there's a bunch of, mistakes they make that are hilarious as well, but they're honing in on it
Yep.
and they're getting better all the time. I'll tell you, you mentioned ChatGPT. I asked Siri a question and she didn't even understand what I asked her. What she writes out is way off. ChatGPT is on it, though.
Mhm.
If you don't believe AI has come a long way, maybe you're not using the better stuff.
Right.
Isn't it fun? I don't know if you have these, Scotty, but I think it was for Father's Day, my birthday, the family got me these Meta glasses from Facebook. And they're the smart glasses and they can take pictures and do stuff like that. But everything is tied to the Meta AI. And I remember being so confused when I downloaded it onto my phone because it was talking to me like a real human using slang. And I think I made like a sigh or some sound. She's like, and the woman's voice said, "It sounds like you can't believe that we're having this conversation right now, but yes, we are, and everything's fine." And it's like she acknowledged my dismay at the fact that I couldn't believe the AI was talking like a human and not in a robotic, like Siri-like way, but in a different way. And my sigh and like surprise, it picked up on it and called it out like a person.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
It's wild. Insurance underwriting claims and processing, risk assessment, those are jobs that are also, you're dealing with something right now. You put a piece of equipment in your car that you picked up, a rental.
I was going to aerate my yard. I did, which was a lot of work, but I'd never used an aerator. So I went to rent one from Home Depot. I'll say it. They loaded it in my car. I took off. It rolled back and blew my back window out. I did get a call from a real person at the insurance place.
Yeah, that's what I was
So,
wondering. Did you get a real person?
yeah. I mean, as far as I know,
It's hard to
they
tell.
seem to be real.
Retail jobs, I don't need to tell you anymore, cashiers and things like that.
Okay, go to retail. Speaking of retail, I need help sometimes finding things. I can't find anyone to help me find things.
Nope.
And I just feel like it's a ghost town when I go into a clothing store and I'm just wandering around. Nobody asks if I need help. I mean,
No.
most of the time I don't, but it was still that attach a person to your company, make it a real thing, not just a cold store with clothes in it.
Like if we look at the origin of why this sped up so fast, and I'm always kind of shocked at the speed of AI. But when I look at it, I kind of link it to minimum wage. There was a time a few years ago where they really kept pushing minimum wage, minimum wage. And instead of high schoolers having those types of jobs at Target or working at, whatever the types of jobs were, somehow people were saying like, no, you need a career. Like a grown person needs to be able to support their family and get a house and still be working at Carl's Jr. or something, these were starter jobs. And so these people should never have been upped in a sense to getting paid 3 or 4 times above what minimum wage was because they didn't have the skills and the jobs didn't require that much because of the beep, and all the other stuff. And so you ended up with these really high paid employees and businesses were forced to automate to bring costs down because the employees got too expensive.
But don't you think as well that that's why people are living at home longer? Because they're not really forced to get out and get a job and go through the processes. So they just live
There
with mom
aren't
and dad
jobs.
until they get through college and sometimes even after they get a job, it takes a while for them to get a job that could support them. And why should they? So it really has changed, I think, the dynamic of our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just read not too long ago, there was a great article in Forbes that had talked about what our youth are going to do right now as they are still living at home. They're 27 years old, but they're still living at home with mom and dad. And this was 72% of Americans.
I know that a lot of schools, and I'm hearing this from parents a lot right now, they're upset because it's becoming a nationwide thing that there's no more phones like on school campuses. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. They're all becoming phone free. And as a result of that, bullying is going down, social interactions are going up. And so removing technology forces people to interact with each other. And that's how we get ideas. And AI can implement a lot of things that are already existed. It can pull the data, but creative outside the box thinking is something that human beings have over every other species on this planet. And if we can somehow interact with each other, that's how we're going to get the larger ideas that AI can help implement for us. But as long as we are continuing to tie ourselves into technology, then we're not free to control it. Like in the same way that the schools are getting rid of phones, we need to figure out as a culture, how do we start to remove technology from us so that our creativity
Yes.
can come back? Because the creativity is something that AI can't really do.
Well, if you think about one of the things that Elon Musk did, and I know people feel different ways about him, but it was after COVID and he got to a point where he required people to come back to the office
Yeah.
because he said you need to communicate with each other,
Yeah.
talk to each other. That's where creativity comes from.
It's
So
true.
there's something to be said about sitting around having a conversation and sparking ideas.
Correct. And I think that's how most amazing things happen is two people have an idea and then suddenly light bulbs go off and then there's a path.
Do you think there's going to be a pushback at some point? Are we past the tipping point? There's no way to come back? Or do you think we could actually get to a point where you say, hey, listen, we need to have creativity by human beings again? It's not let me feed a few facts into the computer and it gets creative for me. How do we put the genie back in the bottle?
I don't think you can put it back, but you got to coexist. And I think if you go into the computer system, then you're lost. You're just a cog and the computer will run it. But if you can understand the computer system can be your hands to implement your ideas, then you can actually implement your ideas faster and more efficiently.
I believe there's so much value in these vocational tracks, these vocational schools. I think that's the best way to get jobs. If there's going to be computers, if there's going to be robots, somebody has to fix them. Somebody has to make them.
Yeah.
And so you're learning a skill that you can take into this new world. Absolutely.
I agree. Look, an AI can develop an amazing infrastructure of a home and how it would be built and space it all out mathematically and everything else. But someone's still got to make the PVC pipes and maybe AI does that, but who lays them? Who does all the soldering? Who does all of the connection points and who puts it all together? And that's a human being still. So being a person who's still doing construct, at least until humanoid robots become more of a thing, which is coming, whether people believe it or not, it's totally coming. I mean, we are going to all be displaced and some people will be able to adapt and work, in tandem with AI. But for a lot of people, do you think it's going to become universal basic income where everybody gets food, everybody gets a housing, everybody, we all just get paid for sort of to do nothing? And how will that affect human confidence and our abilities to actually just be confident people and our self-esteem and happy, because a lot of times when people are unemployed, it's not the money they miss, it's the purpose.
The movie Wall-E.
Yeah.
If you've ever
Yeah.
seen that.
I loved Wall-E.
The people have their little chairs they sit in and they just float around. They don't have to stand up even. They're just
Meals
existing.
get prepared, food gets prepared, everything gets taken care of.
I can't imagine that human nature would allow that to happen. It wouldn't satisfy us as a human.
But it is going to happen. It's going to happen. And I wonder, as human beings, without purpose, how we'll all be. How is that going to change our society even? And I know that's a kind of a deep question, I know, for this podcast, but Wall-E is the perfect example because I do think that's where we're headed, is a situation where everything will be automated in abundance. There will no longer be starvation. There will no longer be, you don't have to be homeless because everything will be abundant. But in that world that they're going to create, we will no longer be the architects and we will no longer have control. We'll be living in the world that's automated. And will we
Well,
be?
me and John Connor will disagree. And we'll be fighting against it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will tell you this, that there is still a need for empathy and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So when they talked about in this very lengthy article about the jobs that are going away and the jobs that are still needed, it's people who are in healthcare. You need people to still give empathy.
Correct.
Whatever job is a hands-on job, people still need compassion.
I was worried about my field a little bit because a person can sit there and explain their problems to ChatGPT and it can give you interventions, cognitive behavioral interventions that have an effective way of working. And so you can make behavioral changes in your life using AI. You can use it. It depends on what you're using therapy for. But if you lost your husband or you lost your wife or you lost your job or something tragic happened in an illness in your family, you do need to look at a human being in the eye and understand that you're not alone. And a computer just can't do that. When it comes down to empathy, like what Hudson's saying, sometimes a client just needs me to look them in the eye while they're crying and know that they're not alone. And there's just no way that a machine could do that. Not yet, anyway.
Earlier today, I'm at my house by myself and I don't know why I did something and I just kind of said out loud, "You are such a dummy," or something, or that was really dumb, or something negative to myself. Yeah. And Siri says, "I'm sorry you feel that way. Would you like me to call someone for you?"
No way.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Crazy? Yeah.
Well, that's the weird thing is that I see in therapy sometimes there's a lot of those like victim therapists that are just very coddling and make the person feel like all their choices are right. It's just the world that's bad. And you can have clients like that go in there because they feel really good and they always feel like they're doing the right thing and the world sucks and it's not their fault. And then you have the challenging ones that are going to make somebody feel uncomfortable. And I think that that's the difference. It's like when you talk to ChatGPT, it doesn't ever criticize you. It's always trying to empower you. It's always trying to make it seem like what you're doing is the right thing, or you have it in you, and will steer you towards the track you're already going, as opposed to stepping back sometimes and questioning you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Sometimes you got to be honest. And sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say, but it's in their best interest because they know underneath it all they need to hear that. And I haven't seen AI get really confrontational yet.
Last thing I'll say about this job replacement thing, I saw the ultimate example of a job that is obviously replaceable. There's this little, I don't know, robot thing that goes around and sweeps at Sam's Club,
Yep.
and it will stop if you're in the way, beep, beep, and then it just picks up where it was. I saw a guy riding that thing, and I thought to myself, there's a man who doesn't have job security at all because that thing can do it on its own.
Yeah.
I love my Roomba. I mean, I've got one.
Do
I've
you
got
ride your Roomba?
I don't ride it. I wish I could. I might try it maybe later today. I don't know if it'll hold me.
Does your cat ride the Roomba? Because that's always fun to watch.
That would be fun too. That would be really fun. No, but the world is changing and it's changing so quickly, ever so quickly. And there are going to be people that are out of work and looking for a new home. And where are they going to go?
And to that, you expect these big things like McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Starbucks now just to never shrink,
Yeah.
to never go backwards. But this shows you no matter how big you are, it's a business.
Yes.
And there's a time when things will not go perfectly and things do need to shrink back. So you can't rely on that.
And everything is cost effective, and we really do need to establish skills in human beings that make us valuable. Because if your only skill is scanning something over a barcode, then do you deserve the job anyway?
Again, all those retail jobs, all the brick and mortars, they're going to be gone. There's going to be no brick and mortars to go and do some retail therapy as a girl. Everybody shops online. And now you can there's all these like little things that you can use your phone, see it in your room. You take a photo of your room and it'll place it exactly what it'll look like. Take a photo of yourself and I'll put this outfit on you. I mean, just the technology alone to take a photo of a dress and then put it on me and see how I'd look and move around, it's crazy.
It is
But
crazy.
it's available and it's happening right now as we speak. And somebody's trying to dress on virtually. With that, keep the empathy coming, and the compassion and try and navigate through this crazy life of AI because it's moving fast.
It is me, it's Alan and John Connor. We got you.
Yep.
Yeah, you do. That's right. I'm Hudson Ott. That is Scotty Blaisdell, who's with John Connor, and Alan Wagner, our therapist, who's also with John Connor. We're Hudson and Scotty B Needs a Therapist. Thanks so much for liking, subscribing, tell a friend. And until next time, peace in the chicken grease.
See ya.
See you guys.